Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music, and today I want to take a look at the main theme from season 2 of White Lotus. So the actual name of the track is Renaissance, and it's by Cristobal Tapia de Veer. Well, it's a different theme from season 1. It has a very strong flavor, and it's kind of not for all markets. A good theme should tell the story of the show. I wonder how well this succeeds. Let's take a look at what makes it tick. Before we get into it, I want to remind you that Martin Hardenreich and I are having a holiday challenge, asking our subscribers to record some holiday music, do a video of it, drop us the link to your YouTube channel, the video in the channel. We'll make a big old playlist. We've got participation prizes. We're going to have a drawing at the end. You have until December 21st. That's the solstice, right? Yeah. And we'll just see how it all goes. Last year we did this. We had tons of submissions. I've got mine going already. It doesn't have to be a Christmas song. It could be any song that has a feeling of good cheer, fellow feeling, the kinds of things that we do to celebrate this time of year. All right, let's take a look at Renaissance. I recommend you listen to it on YouTube or on Spotify. Listen to that original production because it's crazy. There's some wacky stuff going on there. I've tried to recreate it, and for the purposes of this discussion, I've dropped it down a half step. The original recording's in B flat, and I've taken it down to A minor because it's a little bit easier to relate to understand. Let's take a look at it. Well, first of all, the first thing I noticed about it, listening to it, was it's got, look at the chord progression, what I think of as kind of like a version of the money chords, that basic 4-chord chord progression that we use all the time. But because the narrative of the show takes place in this sunny Mediterranean, southern Italian, or maybe it's just, let's say, I think they're in Sicily, in a Sicilian world, it begins with a sense of elegance, almost of Renaissance beauty. And that's what the images on the screen reinforce as well. As the theme progresses, more and more scandalous action takes place in the animations on the screen, and we get a little more of a Ibiza vibe. But this lovely triplet feel is so exciting. And then that beautiful vocal floating in. And that's the chord cycle right there. We just heard that. It's like it's just an 8-bar chord cycle. I want to take a look at how that 3-note phrase works against the metrical structure of the piece, because we've got a fairly simple beat going by 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But the little the 3-note melody happens like that over the top of it. And what that means is 8th notes grouped in 3s against the feeling of 8th notes grouped in 4s for a typical measure. What happens is it crosses the bar line. Here you can see it strangely begins on the top note and then drops down. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The accent falls in a different place in the triplet every time. And that happens throughout. So a version of A minor, and then a little change to get to F, and now the bottom note. And then a little pause, it's great, so they can start again on the downbeat. From here, it starts to kind of build. You see the bottom kind of comes in. We're just kind of building it up. And I love this moment where it sort of pulls back in again. Okay, I've stopped it because now we're getting into the ramp up, the gradual escalation as layers and layers begin to add. We're going to get a shaker, and the single vocal is going to give way to harmonies. And it's kind of interesting what happens. The vocal sound turns into this very strange overmodulated sound as well. It's hard to pull off, but kind of affecting. All right, so here we go. New melody. going down to the G is important to make it work with the chords, and now the same thing but in thirds. And the thirds support the harmonies. There's a big change here as the bass drops, and now it's in three voices. I think the original one was an actual singer with lots of modulation on the voice. And now we're fully in Ibiza, right? This is at 127 beats a minute. There are lots of little ad-libs tossed in the vocals that I just didn't do here. It's a beautiful example of the idea of the title credits and the sort of sense of the narrative following and leading the musical arrangement. Because as the season has progressed, what seems like a perfectly innocent, fun outing in a hotel in the south of Italy turns into this kind of very complicated social interaction. It gets more and more intense, and that's exactly what this arrangement does. In the original arrangement, what is piano here was kind of a plucked harp, and so it's even lighter, even more delicate and Renaissance-y. A minor, F, C, chord tones, no biggie in the melody, E minor, so dark, and then G, and then the whole thing starts again. The strings are added to provide thickness, and in the original arrangement there's a couple of other pads as well. Drops back, and we've got the shaker with a new melody. In the original, there's a highly pitch modulated square wave on the vocal. I couldn't quite get here, but I did add some. Now the vocals are in thirds, parallel thirds, still outlining the chord. Here comes the kick, and now we're fully on the dance floor. The vocals now are in three parts. Well, I hope this has been useful. I want to remind you again about the holiday challenge that Martin and I are running. Like and subscribe. Ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos. I'll see you next time.